Welcome back to Lifting with Lions. It hasn't been too long since the last episode, but we're here, it's Tenny and I, to talk about kind of my progress, how far we've come, what kind of changes I've seen, since that was half of what Lifting with Lions is all about, is taking real people and seeing through their eyes what kind of changes they see and what they learn. So I do get to be the guinea pig, and I'm really happy about it by now.
And this is an awesome episode for me because there's always a period in people's journeys where people are encouraging them on the things that we can see externally. And we have that external motivation that person is feeling where they feel, wow, everyone seems to notice this in me. But then there's a bigger moment where people realize that for themselves. And they really see that and they get that internal motivation and they know, holy cow, this is working. I see a change in myself. And we talked a bit about that before for you.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to say flat out that my mind is blown at how well this is going. I was a little hesitant about it, not because I didn't think it would work, but because it can take a lot of time to see progress.
Because I was the before bod Captain America.
You were the before bod. Exactly. You were young Steve Rogers.
Yep.
But I mean, my mind's blown. First of all, you've gone from 108 to 115.
Yeah.
You're 114.8.
Hold on. Let me just say how big that is. I know I've said it before, but I never, ever gained weight. No matter what I did, no matter what I ate, I would never gain weight throughout my entire life. I was always 112, 111, something like that. Until in December, I dropped all the way down to 108, which was crazy.
Which was the lowest you've been in a long time.
Yeah.
And the highest you'd been is like 111. So lowest you've been in a long time was like a 3-pound change. Because like you were saying, you've never changed weight.
Yeah, that's a lot for me, though. And so the fact that I'm 114.8, practically 115 pounds, is really big for me.
And how long have you been working out now?
It's been, 3 months? Maybe?
3 months, and I think about 2 months of that you've been really focusing on your diet.
Yeah.
The first month we were just kind of off and on working out to get your muscles accustomed to it, building those kind of neuromuscular connections and getting you used to using your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
But really going into your diet and your weightlifting, you've been doing it about 2 months.
Yeah.
And so it is a little slower than some people might see on their bulks because you put on about 6 pounds in 8 weeks. So a little under a pound a week.
Yeah.
But we're doing it in a way that you are staying fairly lean.
Yeah.
Because we wanted you to stay lean throughout this. Because you started at like 8% body fat.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really lean. But you're still extremely lean, extremely vascular, and you've put on noticeable size. But some of the stuff, we really got to get to the point eventually where we're doing this with video as well. Because people would be mind blown just to see the progress visually.
Yeah.
And we're going to be putting this stuff on the website for sure. And also the Instagram page, go follow Lifting with Lions. So we can kind of let you see this visual. But we've got before pictures we've been taking of Jared, and already we had you flex in the gym. I showed you a lat spread, and you had a noticeable V
Dorito
in your back.
His wife,
Jared had a small Dorito.
Walked in and she's like, "Look at that Dorito."
Yeah, that was the first thing she said.
Wow, yeah, she really inspires me. She makes me want to keep going with this.
Yeah, you're becoming a little Dorito.
Yep.
But kind of to explain the visual aspect of where you were at when you started.
Mm-hmm.
You were flatter, not necessarily flat in the sense that you didn't have a lot of, very large musculature. Your biceps didn't pop out.
No.
You didn't have a lot of veins coming out.
It was all very straight.
Yeah, very straight, rectangular, kind of flat.
Honestly, it wasn't quite young Steve Rogers, but honestly, it was not extremely far off either.
Yeah, it was actually pretty close.
Yeah.
But, I mean, now you have a noticeable V that is developing in your back, which blew my mind because that takes a lot of time for that lat development to come in. But that's really hitting quick. And your triceps today, after we did a chest workout, when I showed him to do a tricep flex behind his back, your triceps were like popping out of your arm.
My triceps were popping.
And you were impressed.
Yeah,
I mean, you were shocked.
My arms have never been that big. And I've told you there have been a few periods where I worked out. One was actually decently consistent for probably like, I don't know, probably like 6 months. So that's, and it was just the body weight exercises. But still, yeah, that's longer than I've been working out here. And already I'm much larger than I've ever been.
We could see the start of your abs through your shirt.
Yeah.
Your pecs, when you did the side chest shot, were developed, and we could see actual kind of that bulge from your pecs sticking out from your chest. Yeah, exactly. But you had noticeable biceps. When you flexed, you actually had the lines there, then the separation of the bicep.
Mm-hmm.
So for 3 months, I'm extremely happy with where we're at.
Yeah, me too. You think you're happy. I've been stoked about it. And some other things. I mean, I absolutely love how I look, and I can see places to progress, and that's not me being unhappy at all. It's just me understanding what my potential is really becoming, because I never thought I could even get this far, to be honest, or even put on weight. But all of those things I'm already surpassing after a short amount of time. And it really comes down to decently consistent workouts and a good diet. And honestly, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to the gym twice a day and putting hours in, you know? I'm sure that there are some people that would do a podcast like this that would just spend all day, every day at the gym and then be like, look, you can look like this in 2 months. But I feel like my workouts have been realistic. You know,
absolutely.
A person who has a full-time job and then has stuff to do afterwards and just tries to fit in the gym where they can, you know?
And I mean, it hasn't just been visual too that I've seen. You've seen a lot of growth just with the numbers that you've been putting up.
Yes.
And I don't want people to focus too much on the numbers because, I don't know. It's hard to focus on too many things at once. Yeah. And so if you're trying to really change how you look and you're also trying to change how much you lift, it can get you distracted because they're two different types of training typically. But, I mean, the numbers you've thrown up are really impressive. You're 114 pounds, 115, and you are up to 40-pound dumbbells on your flat bench?
Yeah, flat bench, yep.
You're up to 25-pound dumbbell curls.
Mm-hmm.
Like 30-pound tricep overheads holding a 30-pound dumbbell behind you.
Yeah.
And I mean, that alone, when I go to the gym and I see people who have been working out for just a couple months and they're obviously very new, I don't often see, especially when they're 115 pounds, I do not often see them using 40-pound dumbbells this quickly. Like, that's a large percentage of your weight. It's a combined of 80 pounds as a very brand new beginner when you weigh 115. Yeah. That's super impressive. And so if it keeps progressing at this rate, I mean, that's phenomenal. So I'm really happy with where that's going. And so it's definitely working. And the changes so far have been really dramatic.
Yeah, I've been really excited. And it's really exciting since I'm just starting out. I didn't know much about going up in weight. I don't mean in my body, but I mean in what I lift. So since I always pretty much did body weight stuff, I didn't know what it felt like to one day be lifting, maybe curling 15s or 20s, and then a couple weeks later curling 25s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe with bench press or whatever. It's really interesting to me that it just feels almost more like the weights are getting lighter as you go.
Totally.
Because today I was doing some curls with 20 pounds and I was just throwing them up and down like it was nothing. And it kind of struck me like when I started working out, pulling the 20s out of the weight plate section was difficult.
Yeah.
And today we were just talking and I was not really paying attention. I was just curling and I was like, wait a minute. This used to be difficult.
I know. And you were talking too. You said it's a lot easier to lift the dumbbells out when there's a lot of weight on it because we have the adjustable dumbbells where you change the pin on it and it pulls out a certain amount of weight. because dumbbells are expensive and I don't have a whole rack yet. But it's kind of hard because the plates sometimes stick together in the adjustment stand because of the friction. And you were saying how it's a lot easier when you have a higher weight because there's not as many plates to stick.
Yeah.
But you did that as you just casually pulled out a 40-pound dumbbell. When you started 2 months ago, you were pulling out a 20-pounder and you're like, oh man, I don't know about this.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a really interesting feeling. And on top of that, talking about that 40-pound dumbbell, because I started today with, what did I start with, 25 or something? I don't remember. Anyways, I was just pressing up 25 pounds and I was like, I think I could go up. And so I went up and I went to like 30 or 35 or whatever. And then I went all the way up to 40 and I started pushing those up and I was like, oh yeah, this feels better. This is definitely a little bit harder. And Tenny's look was like, what the heck? And I was like, what? And he's like, 40 is a lot for somebody your weight and just starting. I was like, oh really? I literally said, I'm sure it can't be that bad, right?
Well, and I explained it is that when I started lifting, I was like 170 pounds. I think.
That's what you said.
Yeah, about 170 pounds. And I'm 6'2". And I fluctuate. When I bulk, I get up to about 215 right now. And I'm in the 190s right now. But when I started, I was about 170. And the equivalent, I don't know the exact equivalent because I didn't go into the percentages. But the equivalent is me starting out as a 170-pound lean kid who's never lifted before, picking up two 70-pound dumbbells and doing bench press with them. And when I explained that to Jared, he's like, oh yeah, that is kind of a lot. Like if I saw a lean beginner kid at 170 using 70-pound dumbbells to do a really well-executed, good form dumbbell bench, I'd be massively surprised.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one thing we've been talking about this too is I think Jared just has very good weightlifting genetics and definitely better than I do. I have very good bodybuilding genetics. I have great inserts. I have a really easy ability to lose weight at a reasonable pace and adjust that and to gain weight how I want. And it's very consistent in how my body works. So it's great for bodybuilding. But I do not have high lifts. I've never been very strong. And I always look like someone where people say, wow, you look like you bench probably 355, high 350s. And I'm like, dude, sometimes when I'm cutting weight, it's like 225 and up is a struggle. So it's interesting to see kind of the differences between us physiologically.
Yeah.
Because you're very capable of putting up high weights very quickly with little training. So it's going to be interesting to see how much weight you're going to be able to lift. And we also don't want to get too obsessed with that and divert and just turn you into a little power lifter.
Right.
I don't know powerlifting training very well.
Yeah, and you still have your goals. Like, that is not what interests me.
Totally.
Even now, I really am interested. I would say, though, that my interests have changed a bit. Because you start out for one reason, I just wanted to overall look better and not be that scrawny kid. I didn't want to be baby Cap. But now that I've done it, I've seen a lot of health benefits and a lot of confidence boosts, and I've seen changes in my body, and my wife has been really happy about it. And it's kind of shifted from being something that's difficult that I'm just willing to do to not be the scrawny kid to something I actually really enjoy doing. And it makes me feel more healthy. I feel like if I want to be healthy and happy, this is something that I want as a part of my life.
And we've talked about this a bit, but weightlifting, especially squats and deadlifts, benches help, but squat and deadlift especially, if you do those for the rest of your life, they massively improve what you're capable of doing in old age. I mean, you'll see people who squat and deadlift into their 70s and 80s, and it is keeping them so healthy.
Yeah.
So if you're doing it with really good form and you're doing it for a long time, that's not talking about an 80-year-old guy progressively overloading and just smelling salts going out there with a weightlifting belt and squatting 700. Talking about just normal maintenance squatting and deadlifting as part of a healthy lifestyle, that stuff affects your fitness for the rest of your life. So this is something that is going to help with your short-term goals of kind of changing what you look like and how your body works, but it's also going to help literally for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So that's something that's just something to keep in mind for everyone, is that if you do this and you really get into it, it's going to help you forever. And it's going to come into places that you never would have thought.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was just sitting there in my desk and I always used to have like a sharp pain in my lower back. And when I had been squatting for a long time and really got into doing heavier squats and a lot more volume, I just randomly noticed one day that pain was gone.
Yeah.
I just didn't notice it anymore. And it can change just the smallest aspect of your life from pain and sitting in a chair. And going back to what you were saying, is there's a lot of excitement in different parts of what we've been doing. There's an excitement in seeing your biceps change and in seeing that V in your back. But there also is a different type of excitement when you see yourself throwing up 40-pound presses.
Yeah.
Opposed to 30. And I don't know, they're different types of excitement, but you can easily see how they lead people to different paths in weightlifting.
Yeah, definitely. And your goals are going to change. Well, they might change, and that's just fine, but keep your goal in mind, right?
And I think everyone's goals should evolve.
Yeah, that's
they
a
should
good way to put
definitely get more challenging over time. We don't want to just keep ourselves with the same basic goals. We want to keep pushing ourselves. But it's also going to become something that is more of a part of us because we're capable of overachieving it, and we know that.
Yeah.
So you're capable of lifting a lot of weight now, and you've seen how much you can accomplish when you really put your mind to something. And that's going to affect how you set your future goals.
Yeah.
You're going to say, I can set a goal way harder than that this time because I know I can do it.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, this is going to sound crazy, but at this point, with tracking my nutrition, I would rather track my nutrition than not know what I'm taking in. Beforehand, I thought that was just going to be a pain in the butt, and now I would rather track every meal. It helps so much. Like, it first of all is helping just to make sure I'm having enough food, that I'm growing and everything, but then it's created awarenesses in other areas, how much sugar am I eating?
Totally.
What garbage am I putting into my system? If I have to log it, then I'm going to actually think about it. And that's had benefits in its own areas. Like, for example, I always have really bad seasonal allergies. I mean, you can probably hear in some of the very earliest episodes, I just had consistent allergies, so my nose sounded plugged. I tried not to make it sound like that, but I'd be sniffling and stuff. But the less garbage I've taken in on my diet and the more I've eaten like raw honey as opposed to sugar and whatever, my allergies have gone down significantly. I used to be miserable. And that's thanks to just starting this exercise routine. One thing led to another, and I'm just generally healthier and happier because of it.
And I don't know, it's kind of fun to get other people into it,
Yeah.
It's fun to have it be something important to you, but it's fun when you see your spouse doing it with you.
Oh, yes, definitely.
How is having Michaela doing that with you helped?
Okay, so Michaela goes to the gym with me, goes to Tenny's place, really, Mondays and Wednesdays in the evening, and that gets me to go, honestly. The fact that I've got my wife there and she's working out with me, that helps motivate me so much in nights that otherwise I maybe would feel too busy or tired or maybe too sore. But the fact that she's going to go with me makes it way easier. And then I get to see changes in her too. And that's really exciting. I mean, honestly, she started out with a pretty good bod. And that's maybe been almost a little frustrating because she already looked good when she started.
She didn't have the super typical before bod.
Yeah, exactly. She was already she has a really athletic build.
Right.
I think you could probably agree with that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I don't know if women really build noticeable muscle very quickly, but she feels healthier and she loves the changes in me, and both of us are just kind of in this journey together. And then I've got Tenny on top of that, who's obviously in this journey with me, and he's being my Sherpa up the mountain of gains.
Your Sherpa,
Yep.
the wise
Sherpa.
Sherpa.
So having somebody with you can actually really make all the difference.
Totally.
I feel bad for anybody who kind of has to do this alone. And if you do, yeah, that's how Tenny was. And so he can tell
That's how
you.
I've been my whole life. I mean, I never worked out with a partner. When I started working out, I was 19.
Mhm.
I worked out from 19 until 22, I think, without ever doing a single workout with a partner.
Yeah.
Not once. Never a spotter even at the gym, like a random person. And then I worked out with my brother for about a month and a half when I lived at home with my parents before I got married. And during that time, just those like 6 to 8 weeks of working out with my brother, it was such a good feeling. Because one, you're trying to impress the person you're with.
Right.
Not because you want to look better than them, but it's just fun to push yourself and to, I don't know, kind of show that you're capable of something.
Yeah.
It's just a fun thing to show you're passionate about something. And the other part of it was something that kept me committed because I felt responsible to my brother because we kind of leaned on each other when we went to the gym. Is that if one of us didn't really feel like going, the other one typically did, and it made us go.
Yeah.
So that's something that's super helpful for having a gym buddy or getting some friends who want to go is on the days when you're not motivated, they push you.
Yeah.
And on the days they aren't motivated, you push them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing with a spouse. I mean, I'm sure there have been days where either you or Michaela are more motivated than the other to work out.
Yeah, for sure.
So I did that for years. And it wasn't until you started working out with me just recently that I actually had like a lifting partner because you come over during your lunch break and we work out.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like every time you come over, I hit a PR.
I was going to say that. PR is personal record, by
Personal
the way.
record, yeah.
If you didn't know, I didn't know what it was.
And it can be a personal record lifetime or it can be like a recent personal record.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could be a PR on your dips where you've done it in the past, but this is your first time doing it on a cut or something.
Yeah.
So every time you've come over, I've been able to hit a lot more weight than I can when I work out alone.
I was going to say that. Every time I work out with you, it seems like you're like, all right, you're going to have to spot me on this one probably. And then you do like 8 and you're
Right.
then you're like, wow, I've never done that before. There's just something about being with somebody that just, it almost gives you more energy. It gives you
Totally.
more strength. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you what, try going to the gym with somebody you like that's not crazy and try not to come out happier.
Totally. And it's also a motivation to see them do well.
Yeah.
Because when I see you hit a PR on your chest press and you throw up 40 pounds when you've never done that before, I'm like, shoot, I want a PR now.
Yeah.
So it makes me really want to do well on my lift.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a great, what is that? Is that a symbiotic relationship? Where you're both benefiting?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I'm trying to think of the fish that like feed off of whales or something.
I mean, and to
Or
an
hippos
extent
with
it is kind of, we're both benefiting.
Yeah,
but,
you're not a parasite for coming over to my house and working out.
well, kind of a little. So maybe that's a better, that's a better description than I
It's a
originally
parasitic
thought.
relationship, but you're like eating the bad bacteria in me, so it works.
Yeah, I have to come over to his house to work out, and he has to come over here to get the microphones.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So
we both have to do it together to get the gains.
maybe you and your wife are both total leeches, but
Yeah.
at least make it work and be happy leeches.
We are happy leeches. We're going to be buff leeches.
Even
by the end.
leeches can crawl their way up the mountain of gains.
Even leeches. You can be a leech like me.
A leech Dorito.
The Dorito leech.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining
flavor.
a triangle shaped leech because it's just so ripped.
Disgusting.
It really, it is disgusting.
You ever had leeches on you?
Well, I've seen them, but I've never had one on me. No.
I worked at a scout camp when I was a teenager and we used to swim in a pond. And I came out one time and I just had leeches all over my legs.
Oh gosh.
And I remember watching, I don't know, some stupid Survivor show where they're like, oh, you have to do this and this and this, and then squeeze your leg like this and then burn them off with a flaming knife. And I was like, oh crap, what do I do? And my friend just walked over and flicked them off. And I was like, that was way easier than I thought.
That's easier than the nature shows.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Who would have thought? I'm all alone here in the desert with my camera crew.
Yeah.
All alone. But, yep, even a leech can make it.
That wasn't intended to be a segue, but at the same time, that's kind of how I look at working out is you watch these videos and they're like, you can get ripped in 2 weeks, but it's going to take this or this diet or whatever else. And it's really intimidating. But looking back on it, I'm like, oh, that was actually simple. Honestly, I think I kind of imagined that going to the gym would be like just totally destroying your muscles and feeling sore. And you know how it is, like that kind of feeling when you do abs or when you do shoulder or whatever, how it just burns. I thought it'd be like that 24/7, you know?
Right.
But honestly, it's not bad. I mean, half the time we're just talking and having a good time.
Totally. And you feel really sore in the beginning sometimes if you overwork out. But once you're used to it, I mean, you feel drained a bit for a couple hours, but you also feel great.
Yeah.
It's like a weird muscular fatigue, but like really hyped in your mind.
Yeah, this
like
isn't...
You feel really clear and you're thinking clear and you feel healthy.
Yeah, this isn't that like runner's high bull crap.
Yeah, screw that.
I've never felt that where you just run and feel terrible.
Yeah, we talked
like, keep going and then you'll feel good.
We talked a bit about that out of the podcast because I had to do a stupid 1.5 mile sprint, essentially. Go as fast as I could to measure my, I don't know, some weird oxidation use in my body.
Mm-hmm.
It was for a class. And it was the worst experience of my life, man. It reminded me why I don't run.
Yeah.
If I do cardio, I'll do HIIT training or something. Part of that is because I had asthmatic bronchitis growing up. So I feel like there's just a lot of like lung scarring and I still have some asthma. And so running just sucks. Anything long duration just kills me. But I can still do like short sprint type cardio. But where people talk about that runner's high, where eventually it's just like, oh, it just feels good. And afterwards you feel great. I've never felt so crappy for 2 days after I did only 1.5 miles. They're like, oh, well, it gets better over time. And then you push yourself harder and harder. I'm like, obviously I'm sounding massively hypocritical because this is the exact same thing with weightlifting. I'm just saying this because I'm a whiner about cardio and I hate it. But so don't even take any of this to heart. It's just me ranting about that dumb run. But I did it and I felt like crap. And I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Why would you develop a acquired taste for something that tastes like crap the first time you eat it? That's all I'm saying.
Well, I've done that before with food, but...
That being said, work out even though it's hard and it sucks and get through it because weightlifting is different than cardio to me.
Well, my point of that was that running to me feels terrible.
Yeah.
And I imagine that that's what working out was going to be like, but it really actually has been decently pleasant. Like,
I wonder if that's what weightlifting feels like to runners.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe they weightlift and they're like, that sucks.
Yeah. But that's just how I feel. I thought it was going to suck. And afterwards, I go away like, that was nice.
Yeah.
That was actually good. I don't go away being like, holy crap, that sucked and I'm tired.
And part of that is the same thing, well, the same type of thing as those Instagram workouts where you see like, oh, I want a good workout. What's this person doing? And they're looking like they're being like drilled by like a terrorist interrogator. They're like on the floor screaming and someone is screaming at them and slapping them on the back of the head every time they're about to do a lift. And they're like, lift it up! And you just see this person like crying and sweating. They're like, this is my typical shoulder workout. Like, shoot, if I want shoulders like that, I have to work out like that. And then you get to the point where you actually do have really good shoulders and you look at that and you're like, well, that's garbage. I just did normal like deltoid exercises and laughed with my friend during it and it worked great.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these things you see on Instagram that make it look super hardcore are because it looks great on camera, not because that's necessary to accomplish those goals.
Yeah, and in the same vein, you see tons of workout things on Instagram and YouTube ads and whatever where there's a guy that's like, have you tried workout bands? And it's going to be some ripped actor, you know.
Totally.
Or whatever it is. Have you tried this protein shake? It tastes delicious, but it's full of protein. And it's a ripped dude, and you want to assume this guy obviously did this. Otherwise, why would he be promoting it?
Totally. That's a great other way to take that.
But yeah, that's not necessarily the case. Like, find the workout that works best for you. And Hopefully at this point you're starting to understand why maybe one of those bands is not the end all be all, It might help in some areas, but maybe not in others.
Yeah.
But you can look at this stuff and recognize how it could benefit you and how it may not be effective.
Don't just buy fitness equipment because you see one fitness influencer using it and you really like what they do. Look that piece of equipment up and actually see what reviews are for it from reputable sources. I'm not saying like go on Amazon and look it up or go on their site and look at their reviews. I'm saying if you really want to know if exercise bands are helpful, look up are exercise bands useful and read some actual exercise science articles on it.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you, oh, they're great, but for this type of activity. Because that's the other side of it, is you'll see a lot of stuff that overpromises on Instagram, where you'll see someone doing like really light medicine ball sit-ups or something. And the actor they pick to do it is just jacked and juiced out of his mind.
Yeah.
Like the guy is just a tree. And so you just see this dude and you're like, oh, wow, well, obviously worked for him. I just got to get me a medicine ball and I'm going to look like that with a 14 pack.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not necessarily how it works because they just pick the most jacked, most physically attractive people that they can do to advertise any product. Just because they're showing it, or even your favorite Instagram athlete is doing it because they're sponsored by them for a video, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get you the same results.
Yeah. And remember, if it's an advertisement, they're making money off of you.
Yeah.
And the other companies that are putting the advertisement out are making money off of you just watching it. Not saying don't watch it, but and YouTube, you see those videos that are like how I got jacked in 2 months. Those people are making money off of you if you watch their video. I'm not saying don't watch it. I'm saying that they're going to make money if they can make it seem interesting enough for you to watch it, whether or not it's realistic.
Totally. We're not trying to villainize any influencers or YouTube people, but it's important to remember that this is their career.
Yeah.
This isn't a side hobby for most of them. They are making a full living doing this, and they have marketing specialists that work with them, and it is their whole intention to make money off of this.
Yeah.
A lot of them do it because they really love it and they want to help people, but at the end of the day, they have bills and they want to make money and they're going to get sponsored by things, even if they're not good.
Yeah, and there's movie magic too. I mean,
Totally.
My job is to make videos and audio stuff, so I can tell you that. And I make marketing stuff, and I'm realistic, and I sold stuff for a long time. I did retail for years, and I was pretty good at it. So I can tell you, just take it with a grain of salt, Understand their goals, understand your goals.
And that works the same for listening to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not making money off this podcast.
Yeah, we've made $0.
It's mostly just a really fun experiment and really good experience for both of us. But I would not turn down a sponsorship from MyFitnessPal.
Right.
So if it did eventually
wink.
make money, just remember what?
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Or Dorito.
Doritos, yeah.
If we can work with Dorito and
That'd
make
be
a
a hard
custom like
sponsorship.
protein pack Dorito, I'd get in on that so fast. But if we eventually like make money off the podcast and stuff, just remember that if we're telling you to do something, at the end of the day, the best thing for you is to evaluate what you hear yourself and decide why it's important for you and take everything with a grain of salt. Yeah. We're doing this because we really want to actually, gain experience, see a difference in our own lives, and also share that difference with other people. But even with that, you have to always take things for yourself and really take a look at it critically.
Yeah. And that's why we want to make the difference here. We want to do really two things. We don't want to tell you what to do necessarily. Right. Sometimes we will tell you this is how you should start. But first of all, we want to teach you how to critically think about how to question things, we just teach you the mechanics, and then you look at the exercise or you look at the diet and decide why that'll work for you. We're not going to tell you what diet.
Give a man a fish.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing is that we want to kind of, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. More so than critically think, we want to put a lot of options out there,
Yeah.
Like why the certain type of lifting might work well for you, but also here's ways to change this lift.
Yeah.
Here's ways to, I don't know, like the cues that you talk about to make sure it works for you, or you've got to know that eating this certain kind of food is going to have this effect on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something you've got to think about. But we're not going to tell you, eat this food. We want you to figure this out for yourself, and that's going to make the biggest difference.
That's one of my gripes with personal trainers is I don't personal train people. I train Jared, but I do everything for free, right? I train friends, and I would definitely charge people if they came to me and they wanted consultations and they wanted to get trained on stuff and they wanted nutrition plans. But that may be something I do in the future, but I see an issue with people who personal train their clients and their clients stay with them for years because that personal trainer is just ensuring that person is reliant upon them. Does that make sense? What?
It's a leech.
It's a leech. Yeah.
A Dorito leech.
Is that I think there's an inherent issue when your goal as a trainer or anyone is not to get that person to a point that they can do it on their own.
Yeah.
If I was training someone, I would be ecstatic if within 3 months they didn't need to be trained anymore because they had gotten to the point where they are so capable they can go out and do their own plans.
Yeah.
Because I don't like when people are like, oh, you need to train with someone for years and always have a trainer. If you're going pro, that's different. Mm-hmm. But if you're just trying to get healthy, I've never liked the aspect of personal trainers who train people for years and never try to help that person get to the point where they can do it on their own anymore.
Yeah.
Where they can really move out of the house.
Yeah.
And go live their own life.
So to speak. Yeah, exactly. And that's why we don't want to tell you what to do. We want to be informational. And so this is something you don't need to outgrow, This is something that you can keep listening to and keep improving your life yourself. And we don't need to tell you how to do it. You'll just have the information so that you can apply it.
And this ties back into the weight loss episode from last week, is that we want to give you the general stuff that you can follow, take an assessment, see what your goals are and really what your drive is, find your calories, find how many calories you need to knock off, basic stuff like that. I don't want to just be very specific and give everyone their own cookie cutter. You have to do this. This is exactly how it will work.
Yeah.
I like giving people this general, reliable advice that they can use to build off of forever. They can go back at any point in their lifting or their fitness lifestyle and their journey, and they can go, oh, it's time to take my assessment again to see how my calories have changed over the years, how my lifting is, and to find my drive, see if it's still there or if it's changed.
Yeah.
That stuff you can do forever.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Don't buy into leeches and don't become a leech.
Don't be either one of those. Not even a Dorito leech. You don't want to be
Not even
that.
a Dorito leech.
Not like me. So, I think this has been really good to cover. I've liked being able to talk about kind of just my reminiscing.
Yeah.
Talking about where I'm at, all of that. And I'm excited to keep going. We're going to keep going on the weight loss really soon. So thank you for listening. Again, this is Lifting with Lions, and we'll see you on the next one.